Okay, so we got the 49ers versus the Browns preview. So this is going to be one of those matchups. Two of the best defense go against one another, but the Niners have one of the best offense in the lead, if I'm being honest. The Niners score over 33.5 points per game under Brock Purdy at center, and they haven't lost a game with him playing. When he's on the field, they win football games. You look at the tail of the tape of the Cleveland Browns. They are 2-2. They had a dominant win against the Bengals the first week of the season. They go into Pittsburgh on a Monday night and they lost. And they lost their starting running back for the remainder of the season. That was a huge blow of their offense. He was their heart and soul of this offense. Their offense moves and does stuff with him on the field. It's just not the same. You look at their weapons. David Njoku is one of their best tight ends. And then you just got Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, you got David Bell, and you got Marquise Goodwin, I believe, that's on the roster. But you look at the entire offensive lineman. They're not that bad of a team. They got a pretty solid unit. But then you look at the injury reports. I'm hearing that their starting guard, Joel Bentignoni, might not even play this week. He didn't practice this week, so that could be concerning for their offensive line. And I'm hearing some interesting news that this could really affect the Cleveland Browns. So there's a big possibility. So I'm hearing that Deshaun Watson is not going to play this Sunday. It looks like they're not going to play Deshaun Watson. They're going to go with PJ Walker at quarterback. They're not going to go with the rookie because he made a lot of mistakes the previous week. So they don't want to take that chance with him. But you look at PJ Walker, he was an XFL quarterback. He's got some experience. He's played with the Carolina Panthers. He's played on a really bad team, and he actually didn't do too bad, but we'll see how that matchup looks like. You look at the 49ers, man, it's just going to be a really tough match. But you look at the Niners offense with Brock Purdy at quarterback. He's making the least mistakes. He is playing best outstanding football. He's definitely in a conversation for MVP if you're just denying his talent and the way he's performing, then you haven't seen what he's done. Christian McCaffrey, one of the best running backs in football. You got Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. They're just two of the best dual receivers. You got Juwan Jennings, who's a really good third down receiver as a slot receiver. Then you just have George Kittle, who is one of the best tight ends outside of Travis Kelce. Those guys are going to make this offense better. You look at Kyle Juszczyk, one of the best fullbacks in football. You just can't ignore this. This Niners offense is pretty damn tough. I mean, the Niners have a solid offensive lineman. It may not be flashy. It may not be like what everybody thinks. It's not as bad as everybody says. They've given up the least sacks. You look at the matchup going into the Cleveland Browns. Who do the Cleveland Browns have on the defensive line that might worry you? I'll be honest. I'll say Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett is probably that one player that I would probably want to game plan the most. But knowing how the 49ers scheme stuff like this, I think that would be the perfect game plan is to find a way to neutralize Myles Garrett. So the best way to do it is to throw the ball quick, try to avoid the pressure on him. He might try to create some pressures. He might even try to hit Brock Purdy here and there. But you look at their secondary. They got Denzel Ward, who's a really good cornerback. They got Martin Emerson, who's a really good corner. Their secondary is not that bad. Their linebacking core is pretty decent. It's not that bad. Their defensive line, they're pretty good against the run from my understanding. I think that's what makes it so good about their defense is they don't give up a lot of big runs. So that might be the most challenging part of going against Cleveland is they got a good run defense. And they might have to be tested against McCaffrey, who makes anything look effortless out there. So you got to pick your poison on this offense. You might have to deal with McCaffrey, but we might try to play it smart. We might try to go with Jordan Mason on some loads. And maybe you might have to face a different type of physical challenge. But we'll see. Looking into this matchup, I just don't know how it's going to fare for the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, you're not going to have your starting quarterback out there, and then potentially your starting guard's not going to play, and then you don't even have your starting running back. That's a concerning, man. Your offense is starting to get crippled a little bit, if I'm being honest. It just seems like this has another blowout written all over it. I'm not overlooking the Cleveland Browns, man. I'm not overlooking them, but man, it doesn't seem favorable. Our defense is just going to make it so difficult for their offense to even score points. So I'm going to go with this prediction, man. And the Niners are just going to dominate them. I'm going to go 35 to 7, man. I don't know. It just doesn't seem pretty, man. If they would have had Deshaun Watson, I would say maybe 35-13, but it just doesn't look like it's going to be good, man. So coming into this Sunday, the Niners are coming into the dog pound, and they're going to be the real dogs in Cleveland, man. You're going to find out why this team is for real come this Sunday. Cleveland is in for a awakening, man. They're in for a nightmare. So that's all I got to say. Go Niners.